Well, this week, Prince Harry took the extraordinary action of taking the UK government to court over the issue of security. The Duke of Sussex has plans to travel back to the UK with wife Meghan and their two young children, Archie and Lilibet. But after splitting from the monarchy, the royal runaways gave up their right to protection from the palace.
Now, that's led him to ask to privately fund his own security, a request the British government has rejected. So is it the right call, or should the Queen's own grandson still have a right to feel safe in the UK?
Joining us to discuss is former Royal Protection Officer Simon Morgan. Welcome back to the show, Simon.
Good morning.
You worked for the palace protecting senior royals for quite a number of years. Help us understand what this is all about. Harry and Meghan fund their own private security in the US. They're willing to do the same when they visit the UK for Prince Philip's memorial, that is to foot the bill. So what's the issue here?
Okay. The initial request has been the return of their police protection officers, which prior to leaving the royal family in March 2020, they both had. Royal family security is cradle to grave, so very much the Duke of Sussex was used to it. So the scenario here is actually the purchasing of police protection, not actually the purchasing of private security, which is what the Sussexes currently pay for in the US. So there is a difference, and it's not black and white. It's a very much a grey area, and there's lots of things that need to be looked at rather than just saying should he or shouldn't he.
Yeah, a legal spokesperson for Prince Harry said, and this is a quote, he inherited a security risk at birth for life. Now, he's sixth in line to the throne, served in Afghanistan, and says he has received extremist threats. In your opinion, how high is the risk for the Sussexes?
Look, there is going to be a generic threat because he's a senior member of the royal family and he has served in Afghanistan as a military veteran. We need to look at it now. Are we looking at the Duke of Sussex as a member of the royal family, or indeed are we looking at him now as a wealthy private individual? And this is something that RAVIC, the Royal Executive VIP Committee, need to look at and decide what is the threat and risk. Because, you know, we're looking at a scenario of want versus need, and somebody has to make that decision. Because, you know, if we are going to go down this precedent ultimately of saying that wealthy individuals can afford police protection, this is something that I'm sure the Home Office don't want to go down, and certainly the Metropolitan Police don't want to go down, because there's just not an infinitive number of protection officers waiting to be purchased, certainly not from the police side. The private sector is something different. But
if that security detail is dropped and dropped so publicly, then would you expect maybe inherently that the threat risk goes up?
Again, it's a balance, and all that needs to kind of be fed in. You know, RAVIC will look at it, and that gets fed in from the police service, the intelligence service, any kind of information that's there. So are we looking at a scenario where we have a perceived or actual threat? And therefore, are we looking at something that's generic or specific? All these things need to be weighed up. So, you know, from my perspective, I'm not saying he shouldn't or he should have it, but certainly it will need to be looked at in greater detail. And one of the key issues, I think, is are we looking at someone who is a member of the royal family, or are we looking at someone who has moved away from that and is now classed as a wealthy individual? Because the precedent that would set would be anybody coming to the UK who can afford police protection at that level will simply wish to purchase it. And like I said, I think that's a precedent that during the UK we don't want to go down.
Oh, so when Prince Harry returned to the UK last year, that was to unveil the statue of his late mother, Princess Diana, his safety was allegedly compromised due to a lack of protection. This is the word coming from Harry's camp. So what does that mean?
Well, my understanding was at that point that he was afforded initial protection when he arrived into the UK, but then that was only as a facilitation into the UK. After that, he either chose not to have protection, or indeed the protection that he had wasn't suitable from the private sector, whether that was his team coming over from the US or indeed somebody that he employed here in the UK. The compromise, my understanding, was that of the paparazzi following him away. And certainly it is well documented that the Duke of Sussex holds the press responsible for his mother's death and doesn't want to put his new family in that position again. So, you know, there's lots of historic and emotive issues attached to that statement.
Yesterday, we saw a reporter ask Prince William a curly question about Prince Andrew. Let's have a look.
Your Royal Highness, can I just ask, do you support Prince Andrew?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Do you support Prince Andrew? Have you spoken to him recently? Have you spoken to him recently?
OK, so how does security react to an awkward and unexpected moment like that?
OK, as security, you're always expecting the unexpected. And, how does that particular moment go down? Is the principal fazed by it? Does the principal react to it? Does the person answering the question react to it because the question isn't answered? So it could become a flashpoint. It could be something that, in this case, was blanked by His Royal Highness the Duke of Cambridge. But then that could lead to a further confrontation. So you, as the protection officer, just have to be on hand and ready to respond and deal with whatever kind of come towards you.
OK, so you've since given up that role. What does an ex-Royal Protection Officer do after that gig?
Exactly the same thing, but in the private sector. So I moved from the police service into the private sector and set up a company called Trojan Consultancy, which runs out of offices in Mayfair, and we look after the security concerns of people of wealth, visibility and status. So it's exactly the same. We employ police officers because that's the skill set that I'm fully familiar with, both in terms of the hard skill set and the personalities that the guys have, because a lot of that is personally based, what we do. So yes, it's the same but different. Can't let go.
Yeah, I'm no expert. Sorry, Carl.
I think we're going to say the same thing.
Yeah, it's not like I'm Harry or anything, but I'd just be calling you.
Yeah. And then you've still got all your mates in the police force, and you can just ring up and go, Bob, what's the situation down at Trafalgar Square today? And then solved.
I mean, we do work very closely with the police because we have those contacts. Why wouldn't we? We employ former police officers, so yes, we do the work in those realms.
All right, Simon, great to talk to you. Kylie did change the guy's name to Bob just to protect the innocent. Good to talk to you. As always, thank you for your time. Soon for you.
We'll package you something and send it to Meghan and Harry.